Namaste, everyone. Christian Long, Life Enhancement Consulting, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this Transformation Q&A Thursday, where we come together and we get answers to the questions we cannot find on Google. Let's invoke and start off properly. Place your hands on your heart. Be aware of the love in your heart. Feel the expansion of the heart chakra. Fill with love, happiness, joy, soothing, healing energies. And be aware of the crown. Be aware of the expansion of the crown chakra, the downpour of spiritual energy from God, the great ones, the teacher and the higher self. And be aware of the heart and the crown together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, respected and beloved teacher, Grandmaster Cho Kuk-Sui, to Lord MAHAGURUJI MEIN LING, to Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, to Saraswati, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, to the angels of Jnana Yoga, the angels of clarity and understanding, the angels of communication, to our divine selves or higher souls, we humbly invoke for your divine light, love, and power, for your help, guidance, and protection. We ask for humility. We ask for the ability to see things clearly and as they are. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you. With gratitude, respect, and love, so be it. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we like to start off, we always have our at least 10 questions for every single talk. And then I like to give the first minute or so of the people that are on live, hey, I've got a question about this, this, and this. If not, then we can just go directly into the questions. And a reason as to why I saw this somewhere, I think it was on a spiritual blog or web, I can't quite remember where it was, but it was something like meditation, where Google can't give you the answers or something like that. So esoteric teaching means what? That which is hidden. That which is hidden. So esoteric teachings are always protected because that's the nature. So there are certain things that are written in books, but usually the very deep esoteric teachings that are written in books are veiled. Veiled means shielded. So you only get a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. So for the intelligentsia, people who have very strong activated ajna chakras or very developed forehead chakras, they can extract the wisdom, right? Forehead chakra means wisdom. They can extract the wisdom. So that's why a lot of spiritual teachings are hiding in plain sight. And if you have a very deep spiritual experience or understanding, and you go to Google to get clarity and understanding on that, usually you're not going to find it. Usually you're not going to find it. You will find it through, now granted, the great ones work in all channels. They work in the books, they work on the internet, they work through friends and family, they work through nature itself. So they'll find a way to get a message to you. But in general, you're not going to find the deep, deep esoteric secrets and teachings just by, how do I become enlightened? Enter. Right? It doesn't really work like that, which is quite fascinating because over the years of my life and recording my spiritual experiences, I will go online and I'll start doing the very best piecemealing. Okay, this was my experience. Let me type in that part of the experience. And then what do they say? And read 4 or 5 articles or even a book or two. And then this also happened. And then, so what I'm doing is trying to synthesize the information to have a holistic understanding. But when I will meet with a mentor of mine, people that are very, very developed, very good healers, very good clairvoyants, and we collaborate with each other, the answer is like that, because it's through wisdom, right? It's not through knowledge of a book. So what I encourage each and every one of you always, always, always on the Transformation Thursdays as well as the Transformation Sundays is it's practical information. So when you ask a question, you want to go, how can I apply this to my day-to-day life, right? Versus just curiosity. The great ones aren't big fans on curiosity. So you're like, see, even as I'm thinking about it, they're kind of like, so if you ask the question, why does the forehead chakra have 144 petals versus 214 petals, right? Not necessarily a relevant question. That answer is not going to empower you and not going to give you practical information. It's too specific and too arbitrary. Make sense? So let us start with our first question. Our first question, which leads us off. We're right at the races here. Can you speak on lineage of Mahaguruji Mein Ling? What is the name of the lineage, background, and is there local chapters, groups, locations in the US? It's a pretty big question. So as you guys know, before every healing, before every meditation, and before every class dealing with spiritual or esoteric teachings, we invoke. We invoke to God, and then we go through a lineage. That is extraordinarily, extraordinarily, extraordinarily important because it gives you access to energies you don't have otherwise. It gives you access to understandings you wouldn't have otherwise. And it gives you protection. It gives you protection. So as an example, the Twin Hearts meditation that we practice in pranic healing is a very powerful meditation. And it was recommended one time, meditate without doing the invocation, meaning do Twin Hearts, the practice, without invoking first and see what you notice. I did it and I wouldn't recommend it, but it gave me the feedback because the great teachers regulate energy, right? The great teachers regulate energy among the many, many, many other functions that they have. So when we are meditating, the spiritual cord is expanding. And that expansion is pouring in certain energies that feed our mental body, our emotional body, our etheric body, and our physical body. It's what animates us, right? It's what animates us. No spiritual energy, no growth, right? So the lineage is you plugging into the nuclear power plant, right? Like a toaster needs to plug into the wall to have access to the bigger and bigger and bigger transformers, right? But you can have the most advanced toaster, the most advanced computer, and have it not be plugged in and it's useless, right? So without you being really plugged in, your aura is very tiny, your chakras are very tiny. But as you invoke, meaning you connect to God into a lineage, you are empowered. So everything expands. So there's a, not a joke, but there's something I've said for many, many years that people will say, oh, Christian, you're such a good speaker, or Christian, you're so articulate, or Christian, you're such a cutie pie and I just want to pinch your cheeks. Really what it is they're connecting to the energy of the school that I've been part of for lifetimes. So when you're attracted to somebody, you're attracted to somebody's intelligence, you're attracted to somebody's looks, you're attracted to something, they have cultivated a certain energy within their system that they're connected to. So for instance, you can have beings of beauty. So models have beings of beauty around them. They are connected to a certain wavelength of energy, and certain beings, devas and deities, are providing energy to them to be that, right? So somebody who is super powerful, physically powerful, emotionally powerful, mentally powerful, they're part of a certain energy, frequency, vibration that's being fed from a hierarchy of beings. So the more understanding you have of your hierarchy and the more reverence you have for that hierarchy, the more empowered you are with those energies. So instead of you being a lower tier, right, instead of you being the toaster plugging into the outlet, maybe you're the transformer that's out on the road, right? You've upgraded, right? You've upgraded. So we're all energy transformers for each other, for each other's human souls. And then we're energy transformers for different kingdoms, right? You have the mineral kingdom, you have the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the human kingdom, the angelic kingdom, and beyond. So those are all different steps in energy. So your teacher, your spiritual teacher, so in our school of pranic healing and Hatha Yoga, the spiritual teacher is Master Choa. He is the Sat Guru, or root teacher. So if you consider yourself a pranic healer, this is fascinating. And this is a whole other esoteric conversation. But if you consider yourself a pranic healer or a Hatha yogi, right, who does not give acknowledgement, reverence, respect to Master Choa, you can be doing the technique, cleansing, energizing the chakras, cleansing, energizing the aura, and it will have almost no effect. Almost no effect. Because the teacher is the source of your energy, of your power to do your work. It's like the toaster that's kind of, sort of plugged in to the outlet, right? And it kind of can produce the heating enough of the toast, but not quite. That's what it's like, right? So it's very, very important to be connected with your spiritual teacher. And I've known many people, and this, I just like you guys test me, I test some of my mentors because I'm still in the process of growing and evolving and learning. And so there were certain people that were very, very connected to Master Choa. And then they stopped connecting to the teacher, stopped invoking, stopped connecting to the teacher's work, stopped doing their Twin Hearts meditation, et cetera, et cetera. And so I would show my mentor different people that were connected to the teacher, right? And other people who were not connected to the teacher. And she goes, that's interesting. I go, what? She goes, I don't know, but that person you showed me, I don't know why you're showing me, but their aura is very, very tiny, very dim, and very clouded. And I go, interesting. I go, that was a former disciple of Master Choa. So what's the factor? What happened? Pride. So negative pride cuts you off from the source of your lineage. So you might be saying, well, Christian, I don't have a lineage. You do. You just aren't aware of your lineage. Every human being on the planet has a lineage that they're part of. Your goal is to uncover that lineage more and more and more each and every lifetime, right? So the teacher that watches over pranic healing and or Hatha yoga is Master Choa, the Sat Guru, the permanent spiritual teacher or root teacher of this school, right? And certain teachers, we have certain teachers that plug us in to other teachers that are actually our permanent spiritual teachers because they all work in collaboration with one another. It's not, hey, I need that student. That's my student. It doesn't work that way. Your permanent spiritual teacher is with you for eons of time. So your parents came together and created you. So they were the physical vehicle for your physical manifestation. Most of the time, your physical teachers or your parents are with you one lifetime. In general, they're with you one lifetime as your parents. They could be other dynamics in other lifetimes, but in general, they're just your parents for one lifetime. Now, your spiritual teacher, your Sat Guru, is with you permanently. Permanently. So your job is to understand who that teacher is. So the invocation is extremely, extremely important because you first connect to God, the source of everything. Then you branch it off into Divine Father, Divine Mother. So the masculine aspect and the feminine aspect, right? Which causes creation to happen, right? creation, by breaking them off, duality. And then you go through the hierarchy. So there are no chapters of pranic healing and Hatha yoga in that sense. The school that we are part of in pranic healing is called the School of Mercy and Compassion. So one of the main teachers of our school would be Lord Buddha Kuan Yin. That would be one of the main teachers of our school, the teacher of compassion and mercy. But you have to understand, these teachers are elders and they're universal, and they show up in different schools, religions, and traditions by different names. So the Chinese name of this teacher, the feminine aspect of this teacher, would be Lord Buddha Kuan Yin. But if you were to be looking at maybe a religion or a more well-known practice, pranic healing or Hatha yoga would fall under the red hat tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. The red hat tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. So the Dalai Lama is the yellow hat. The yellow hat. The red hat tradition is known as the Nyingmapa tradition, which means oldest or first, which deals with the energy aspect. So what are we experts in pranic healing or Hatha yoga? Energy. So if you were to say, well, where do I outside of pranic healing or Hatha yoga, where do I go to get pranic healing or Hatha yoga teachings? It would be similar to the red hat tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. Okay. So let me make sure I've answered the question correctly. Yeah. And there are Tibetan red hat centers all over the world. They're everywhere. Probably in every state in the United States and probably many major cities. Now, the difference is those higher teachings are veiled and they are already revealed in pranic healing. So if you said, well, I want to learn higher teachings, just stay in pranic healing or Hatha yoga and practice. Because in the other schools, like the red hat of Tibetan Buddhism, they're not going to teach you. They're not just going to say, yeah, here's this technique. You have to have a very demonstrated track record and abilities. And if you are developed enough, quite possibly they'll teach you. So it's a very good question. But the lineage is the most important thing in your spiritual practice, hands down, above anything else. The most important. It is your power source, right? Most advanced computer on the entire planet can do trillions of calculations per second, but has no power source. Or it has a fluctuating power source. You're getting online, you're about to use a computer, you're going to do some typing, you're going to create some beautiful document, and then, it shuts off. And then you have to wait, and then it turns back on. You're able to get a few more sentences, and it shuts off again, right? That's what it's like when you're not connected to your spiritual teacher and your spiritual lineage. It vacillates. Every time you have a thought of, I am one with God, I am one with all, the spiritual cord, your plug, expands. Every time you go, people are stupid, I'm this, all these non-truths and falsehoods, your spiritual cord gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's what a lost soul is. A lost soul is when your higher soul says, this was a wasted incarnation, and it unplugs. That's what a lost soul is. Now, as I understand it, in very rare circumstances, a lost soul can be reconnected by a great teacher for a specific reason, as I understand it. But that's outside of today's questions. Okay, so question number 2. Can you please share your knowledge about St Germain, how to connect with him, any specific invocation to invoke his energies, and when should one connect to him? Okay, this is partially public forum and partially private forum, right? Because there's a paywall. So the paywall, you go through the paywall and you get access. But these are still, right? These are still available. That's why we don't talk about higher levels of Arhatic. That's why you don't see, retreats being on YouTube or Vimeo or what have you, right? So there's only so much I can cover even in a semi-private forum. So Count St Germain is a great teacher, great spiritual teacher. He's known as the teacher connected to the violet flame. What is the violet flame? The violet flame is connected to magic. What is magic? Materialization. So that teacher specializes in healing and materialization. This teacher is the teacher that has been assigned to North America. Count St Germain is a holy master, also known as, well, a saint is a 4th level initiate. A holy master is a 5th level initiate. And a Chohan is a 6th level initiate. So Count St Germain is a 6th level initiate. We call him Count St Germain or Holy Master St Germain. By the way, as soon as you call the teachers, they come. So this teacher is present. They come immediately. And they do not come for curiosity purposes. Ever. They don't, to say that they don't like it is not accurate. Okay, so this will keep going then. So this teacher helps with materialization. So you would invoke this teacher when you need help in healing and when you need help in to materialize something that's important. This teacher has many skills. Give me a second. So when you invoke for these teachers, they give you assignments. If you're still and aware, and then when you complete the assignment, which could take a week or two, a couple years, a decade, when you complete the assignment, they give you blessings. They help with your development. They nurture you in your process. That's why they're extremely important. But if you are ready, willing, and able to raise your hand and say, I, this soul, want to be of service, they will empower you. But you have to use the energy that they give you. So when you learn certain healing techniques, certain meditation techniques, or certain techniques to improve the quality of your life or other people's lives, you are karmically responsible to use it. Not just to go, ha, 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 look at me. I know this really advanced technique. You actually have to use it. So you call upon these teachers for major things, right? So for instance, let's say you're going into a fast food bathroom and there's water all over the floor. Are you going to call the CEO of that place and say, hey, just thought I'd let you know, right? It doesn't matter. You would contact a lower management person. So it's the same thing in a spiritual hierarchy. You don't go to the highest first for tiny things. So if you're going to work with a holy master, and I'm very cautious of what I'm about to say, you have to be very clear on needing their help for something. So he is a great teacher. He's a 6th level of initiate. His responsibility is guiding the evolution of North America. He is a teacher that was involved in World War II, mitigating. Instead of the whole world being destroyed, he was not a participant, but he helped prevent us from annihilating all of us being annihilated. He's the teacher of the violet flame, which is used for healing and materialization. So if you need to materialize something, you can invoke that teacher. when you want to strengthen certain energies within your system, know the teacher that deals with those energies, and then read everything you can about that teacher, study that teacher, meditate on that teacher, because you're becoming one with that teacher, right? So if you want to become masterful of the violet flame, for instance, for healing purposes or materialization purposes, you would study that teacher, right? And so you would meditate on that teacher and you would ask very humbly, can you show me, right? Can you show me something? I know it seems like I'm evading the question, which I kind of am, because I can't go into too much detail about this. It's a great question, but I hope the little that was provided will be useful. I know you guys wrote some things over here. Let me check real quick. Yes, I'll send a list of the names. Next question. How can a massive thought form or entity be removed from one's consciousness? Conscious mind or subconscious mind, not aura or chakras. Okay. Good question. Very good question and very fair question. So a thought form is what? You think of something, that's the thought form. You think of an apple. Ta-da! That's a thought form. So anything that you think is a thought form. Then you have a thought entity, which has lots of emotional energy embedded in it, right? So if I said to you, think of an apple, green apple. Okay, you have a thought of a green apple. So it's the thought form of a green apple. Now, imagine you're holding the green apple in your right hand and you're biting into it and you're tasting the sweet, sour, right? And you start salivating. So what you're doing is you're adding emotional energy to the thought form of an apple, making it more likely to materialize in your life. So a materialization goes from subtle to dense. So a thought is what? Subtle. Speaking that thought is more dense. And then writing that thought is even denser. That's the most dense, right? So you're taking something subtle and making it denser and denser and denser. So you're dropping it from the mental plane, the emotional plane, into the physical plane to materialize. Now, there are many factors that determine whether something materializes or not. But simply put, you have to drop the energy of something for it to materialize. So you have a thought form and then a thought entity. It has more juice. And then entities are thought forms that have been so energized for so long, they now have their own consciousness. Those are the things that will take over your life. That's called an addiction. So an addict, drug addict, sex addict, shopaholic, food addict, what have you, they have entities in their chakra system and in their aura that dominates their consciousness and treats them as a host, like a virus, right? So the entity of smoking gets fed every single time the smoker smokes. Every time. If you look at it clairvoyantly, you can see the beings absorbing the energy of the cigarette and becoming brighter. It's really weird. Become brighter and brighter and brighter. Okay. So then the person is now calm. It's not that the person is calm. It's that the entities within the person have allowed the person's chakras to normalize. But as soon as they want to get fed again, right, they agitate the person's chakra system in a certain sequence that forces them to pick up the cigarette or to do the behavior, any behavior, right? You can also have thought entities that are productive, but in general, they're not productive because you're letting go of your will. That's part of it. You have something else guiding your will versus you guiding your will. So that's the different layers. You have a thought form, a thought entity, which has more power from your own emotions, and then an entity which has been supercharged for lifetimes, in general, for lifetimes. and then that controls the person. Those things are gigantic, bigger than a human being, and in some cases, much, much bigger than a human being. So something like an exorcism, that's what that is. It's an entity that's so powerful that needs divine intervention to separate from the person. They are horrific. They are very difficult to heal. Very difficult to heal. So that's why they typically need multiple sessions, because you're whittling and breaking down. It's not even calcified energy. It's energy that's conscious of what you're doing. Think about it. If you were a virus that had consciousness and you knew something or someone was going to come in to remove you, wouldn't you do everything in your power to prevent that from happening? So that's why I've noticed over my years of doing this work, people that have big entities and elementals, by the way, are connected to the elements. So fire, you smoke a cigarette, produces fire. So there's fire elementals, but you can also have entities connected to it. So that person, the higher soul of that person says, I need healing. I don't want to be addicted anymore. I want to move on with my life. So they reach for a healer, a therapist, a coach, whomever that can help them, right? They'll schedule the appointment, they'll pay the money, and then they won't show up. That's the influence of the entity controlling them. Not in all cases, but in a pretty high percentage when it comes to psychotherapy in nature. It's like the addict who is, they're like, okay, we understand you have a drinking problem. Okay, tomorrow we're going to go to rehab. And they disappear. Because the entity knows, crap, I'm going to get thrown out. Because it has consciousness. That's the problem. When the entities have consciousness, you got, quote unquote, a fight on your hands, right? Exorcism. Remember the priest was fighting with the demon? The demon is the entity. You'll see people that have entities, when you work on them, you'll see their eyes change. Sometimes their voice changes. All kinds of things happen. It's a real phenomenon. It's amazing, actually. I've only experienced it firsthand as in healing people, maybe 4 or 5 times in my career. And I've seen other people have be healed and have those experiences. So how do we remove them from our conscious mind? So remember in the I am the soul affirmation by Grandmaster Choa Koksui, he says, I am the soul, I'm not the body, I'm not the emotions, I'm not the thoughts, I'm not the mind. What's the mind? The mind is the consciousness of the chakras and the subconscious. That's the mind, which is ginormous, right? So as I understand it from one of the masters in pranic healing, that you have to be a very high level practitioner in order to heal people's subconscious minds. Meaning your energy body has to be at such a level of refinement and penetration, because when your energy body is refined, it can penetrate. So the subconscious mind is what? Very, very, very refined. So in order for you to affect it, you yourself as the healer have to be refined. Okay? Does that make sense? So I would recommend, for removing massive thought forms, which most of us have, is be healed by a high-level practitioner. I can only speak in our school of pranic healing or hatha yoga. Typically, that would be level 5. There are exceptions, but a level 5 practitioner would be able to help with that. But there are exceptions. There are people that have the energy body of a level 5 practitioner who doesn't practice level 5. This is related to our hatha yoga. But also another way of closing the gap of some thought form, entity, elemental that's influencing you is awareness. So sitting down, closing your eyes and being aware. Okay, I'm suffering in this part of my life. What is the cause of the suffering? My viewpoint. All right, what is my viewpoint? And then as you keep developing awareness, you're making the unconscious or subconscious mind conscious. So yes, you can hire a healer to go into your subconscious mind and to remove programs that have been holding you back for potentially lifetimes. Fair enough. But I've noticed, don't take my word for it, I've only worked with thousands of people for 17 years, is if you have awareness, you will develop so much faster. So you can hire somebody for healing, right? So you're like, I have anger, I have stress, I have a phobia. Okay, great. Sit down, let's do healing. And you do healing, and the healing, depending upon the healer, the receptivity, the karmic factors, etc., the person can have a miraculous healing or very good healing and, go from 100% totally incapacitated with the phobia and be down to 15% with the stress or whatever. But if the person does not develop awareness and understanding of the phobia, of the cause of the stress, of the cause of the anger, over time, they're just going to be right back where they started from. That's the problem. So people really, 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 really need to focus on awareness. So he's asking the question, conscious mind, removing a huge program. Yes, have some awareness around it, and that will help it be released much, much faster. Okay. Next question. Can you share your knowledge of Tiger's Cave in Tibet? So, Master Ko, the senior disciple of Grandmaster Chogo Koksui, has traveled the world over the past almost 32 years as a pranic healing instructor. And he says the most beautiful place that he's ever been to is Tiger's Nest in Bhutan. Why is Tiger's Nest so important? Because that is where Lord Padmasambhava spent most of his time meditating in a cave called Tiger's Nest. I think it's about a little over 11,000 feet, if I'm not mistaken. And he says it's the most beautiful place he's ever been to. It's the only place that he had a desire of going back to, just to go back to, right? For the experience, not going back to teach, but just going back to. And interestingly enough, the queen, I think there's 4 queens in Bhutan. One of the queens is a pranic healing instructor. So pranic healers have kind of a foot in the door when it goes to going to Bhutan and going to Tiger's Nest and going into the cave, because they close off the cave most of the year and they don't allow the general public to go inside. But when pranic healers go into town, we're able to get a private tour and we're able to go in and to do meditation. Now, why do you think Master Ko has had his best meditation experiences in Tiger's Nest? Because he's most connected to the lineage, right, of Lord Padmasambhava. So Lord Padmasambhava is the masculine energy of Grandmaster Chogo Koksui's teacher, who we invoke as Lord MAHAGURUJI MEIN LING. So Lord MAHAGURUJI MEIN LING is the feminine aspect. Lord Padmasambhava is the masculine will aspect. We encourage people, do not invoke this aspect of the teacher. Do not invoke the will aspect of that teacher. You invoke, meaning if you need something or you scraped your knee, who do you go to? Mom or dad? Mom. Because mom is the what? Providing aspect, the giving aspect, the nurturing aspect. When you need something destroyed with reckless abandon, who do you call upon to beat up the bullies? Dad. We don't need to call it dad very often. It's very, very rare. Okay. So we don't invoke that quality. So Tiger's Nest is something that the masters have had a chance to go to over the years. Bhutan is, as one of the masters says, it's almost as though the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum is impregnated into the leaves themselves. And that is the only country on the planet that determines its success by the happiness of its people. So we in the United States have a gross domestic product, which is how much money goes in and out of the country. And for Bhutan, they have a gross domestic happiness. How happy are its citizens? And that is the basis of their success. So if our citizens are happy, we're a success. If our citizens are miserable, we're not successful. That's their viewpoint. And so far, so good. Everyone I've known who's gone to Bhutan says it's unlike anywhere they've ever been, because it's the energy of the people, because many of the people are chanting Om Mani Padme Hum throughout the day. So the whole atmosphere of the country is impregnated with it. It's quite amazing. So if you're up for a big aggressive hike and you're up to go see the cave, to my knowledge, this coming May, it may have changed, no pun intended. It may have changed that there was going to be a tour. Two of the masters were going to take a group of people to Tiger's Nest in May. I don't know if that's currently going on or not. You'd have to find out for the East Coast Center. So that's some of my knowledge. And there's a story, which I actually posted in one of our groups a while back, of Tibetan yogis. And one of the Tibetan yogis, when he was very, very young, he was looking at the cave of Lord Padmasambhava, meditating, and he was in a state of bliss. And he looked down at his foot, the yogi's foot, and his foot was melding into the stone. So not very common practice to have happen. But the cool thing is that when spiritual teachers want to prolong a blessing in the physical plane, they'll write it in rock or steel. So they'll carve a mantra in rock, or they'll carve a mantra in steel. And that will last for at least 1,000 years. And this is not just done in the Tibetan tradition, it's done in all traditions. Next question. Have you ever done candle gazing to uplift your consciousness? In general, and I can't go into the finer details of this, but candle gazing is done for clairvoyance. Candle gazing is done to access the inner world. It's not necessarily to uplift your consciousness. You don't need candles to uplift your consciousness. They're used for a different purpose. Now, candles have purifying qualities. So if you can put a few of the dots together here, candles, clairvoyance, purification, what would be getting purified? And there are beings, remember we talked about the fire elementals. When you're smoking a cigarette, there's a little fire elemental. It's distorted. It's not a purified fire elemental because it's burning tobacco and it's burning the toxins within the tobacco. So it's not a purified being. But if you were to light a candle, there's a being that's created called a salamander. And those beings have certain properties, but they're good for metabolization and purification. So the elements we can use to purify ourselves. So you've heard purification through water, right? Through baptism, but there's also purification through fire, purification through air, purification through earth, right? So we have different ways that we purify the different bodies. So candle gazing is more recommended for developing your clairvoyance, not so much raising your consciousness. So I'll just leave it at that. Next question. I have severe anxiety and I have panic attacks due to long-term abuse. I'm getting help and learning to meditate was part of it. After many months of trying, I still have a problem with my mind drifting and not calming down. My therapist has given me multiple different ways to try to help with this. However, it hasn't worked. Okay, so a couple things. If you can feel the energy or look at it, the person really owns it. They really own their severity of anxiety, and they really own their trauma. So it's become one with them. So one of the first ways of helping that is disassociating. How do we do that? I am the soul. I am the soul. I am the soul. I am not this. I am the soul. I'm not this trauma. I am the soul. I'm not this anxiety. I am the soul. I am not this condition, right? And as you start doing that over and over and over and over again, light comes down, it breaks up congestion, it breaks up darkness, and then it starts to create you start to disassociate from that. It doesn't mean you're not recognizing it, but you're recognizing it objectively. After many months of trying, I don't think of what I'm sensing. I don't think there's systematic trying. It's kind of a haphazard trying because that's part of the condition. So it's like, I'm stressed out. Let me do something real quick versus, okay, every day at 3:00 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., I'm going to do my practice. That would have a transformative effect versus only doing it when you're stressed out or only doing it when everything is perfect. You're not developing any mastery in that respect. And also unrealistic expectations. If you've had anxiety and stress for, let's say, 5 years, it's not realistic to haphazardly do something for a month and to be cool, calm, and collected. That's not realistic. So you have to practice regularly. Maybe 30 minutes is too long, right? So you would start with 10 minutes. Okay, from 3:00 p.m. to 3:10 p.m., I'm going to do my meditation practice, my breathing practice. And it's not a problem with the mind drifting. The mind is drifting because this particular person doesn't have thought power, ajna, directing your thoughts. So it's like, all right, for the next 5 minutes, I want you to think of a red apple only. For those of you who can do that, thought power. You control your thoughts. Not, my mind's drifting. Well, who's in control? The mind or the soul? Well, the soul's in control. Then control your thinking, right? It's mostly because of the anxiety. So the anxiousness in the solar plexus chakra and the constant erratic pulsation is causing, there's too much vacillation in her energy body, which is distracting her. And that's what's causing her mind to go to her feelings versus, wait a minute, I am that I am. I'm the soul. I'm going to control my thoughts. I'm going to control my feelings. I'm going to control my physical movements versus I'm feeling something. I don't like feeling this, and I'm just going to keep feeling this until it ends. That's lack of emotional mastery, right? So in essence, this person hasn't been properly trained. My therapist has given me multiple different ways to try to help with this. So think about this. Think about what she's saying. I've been working on this for a few months, and her therapist has given her multiple different ways. Where's the mastery? How do you know it works? I tried this twice and it doesn't work. Well, it's not how it works. Now, if this person came to a pranic healer, for instance, what we would do is deeply, thoroughly cleanse her energy body, shrink her solar plexus, expand her heart. So then she has stillness, she has peace. And then we say, okay, now we're going to do this meditation. And her results would be much, much better. But I'm sure her therapist is not a meditation teacher or energy healer, right? She has her specialization. Yeah. So getting healing, learning proper technique, and being diligent with that technique, that will be the solution. Number 7, let me ask, can mindfulness work to overcome anxiety if on meds for it or best without? Okay. So as Master Choa has emphasized many, many, many times in writing and verbally, pranic healing is complementary to allopathic medicine. It does not replace it. So a pranic healer, unless they're an MD, psychiatrist, they do not have the moral, ethical, and legal right to tell somebody to stop taking their medications. So we don't do that in pranic healing. So if somebody said, I've had clients that say to me all the time, should I stop my my high blood pressure medication, my cholesterol medication, my psychiatric medication, which, by the way, if you mess with someone's psychiatric medication, they could die, right? They could kill themselves. And I've seen it many times. So we never, ever do that. We say, let's do the protocol, right? We'll take care of the energy aspect. We'll do the protocol, and then give me feedback of how you feel, and then communicate that to your doctor. And most of the time, the doctors will drop the person's meds. So mindfulness, it's a good question. Basically, can you have mindfulness on medication or not? Medication in general numbs your perception. So it's harder to have awareness on medication. Harder. Not impossible, but it's harder. So because it's never dealing with the underlying cause of the trauma, the stress, the anxiety, the depression, whatever the case may be. So I think medications are good temporarily. I do not agree with medications being long-term. I just don't. I have enough evidence to say that you don't need to be on medication for your whole life. But for short periods of time, yeah, I think medications is very good for people. So can't give you a recommendation of getting on or off your meds. Stay on your meds. And how would I say? I would say have a willingness to let go of trauma is what comes. So stay on your meds, and then have a willingness to let go of your trauma. Let go of the story, let go of the hurt, let go of the pain. And that openness will allow energy to start moving. It's not an easy question to answer. Obviously, always get healing and do meditation regularly. Next question. What type of meditation do you suggest when one is giving up smoking? What type of meditation do you suggest when one is giving up smoking? Twin Hearts is really good for cleansing the aura, activating the heart and the crown, cleansing out the solar plexus. Basically, people who are smokers, the jaw minor chakras, the throat chakra, the secondary throat chakra, the front and back solar plexus, and the ajna are congested with the entities and elementals of smoking. So if somebody has a super strong ajna, they can stop like that. Any addiction. Most people with addiction have compromised ajna chakras. But if they have a strong ajna and a strong why, a strong reason, the why is the ajna, they'll stop smoking like that. They'll stop drinking like that. They'll stop abusing like that. My father did it. He was an alcoholic for 15 years, couldn't get his life together, was eating out of garbage cans. And then word got out that his 3 sons were going to be moving in with him, something he had been saving for and been wanting many, many years, and stopped drinking like that. Never drank again. Never drank again. 15 years of being in a constant stupor, living on the streets, eating out of dumpsters, couldn't keep a job for more than a month. And then they said, hey, my brother, my oldest brother, Jason, called up my dad and said, hey, we're coming up to live with you. Okay, that was it. Done. So what does that is the higher soul. The higher soul sends a signal down to the ajna. The ajna becomes super big. And then it sends a message to all the chakras of the entities and elementals that are lodged in the chakras to get out. It's like a super fast purge. It's transformative, but that's the higher soul doing that healing, not not the person's lower will doing it, not the mental will, not the emotional will, not even the physical will. It's the will of the higher soul, divine will, and then that influences the other wills. So I would recommend the Twin Hearts meditation because it strengthens your connection to what? Your higher soul, which makes quitting smoking or quitting any addiction much, much easier. And then getting healing. Pranic healing is super effective for smoking cessation. Super effective. I've had lots of success with cigarette smoking. So Twin Hearts meditation, healing. Anything else for smoking? Oh, and a big one, don't hang around your old smoking grounds, because the smoking grounds and the people are all impregnated with the same entities and elementals you're trying to get rid of. So it reinfests your energy body because you're not fully healed, because it takes time to heal. Once you get healing on an addiction, you're kind of like an open wound temporarily. So we shield that wound, but there's still a chance of infestation of these energies. So you have to distance yourself. So that's why people who have addiction, their homes, their offices, and their cars need to be cleaned energetically, because all of those entities and elementals are there hanging around. So that's why you have to have more understanding of the person's situation. Next question. Anyone else experiencing dizziness, nausea during meditation? Over the years, when I started in pranic healing or Hatha yoga, and we would do group meditation, especially Twin Hearts meditation with psychological healing, which you have brilliant electric violet light go through the chakras, I would see people lose it, like just go crazy temporarily. And we couldn't figure out what was happening, but then the masters doing their work, doing their research, and doing this over the years, it happened less and less and less and less and less. Why? The global consciousness is getting cleaner. That's one factor. Two, the rooms are being energetically cleaned before, during, and after class. So it's keeping things clean. Number three is that the energy is being better at being regulated, right? Remember, if you stick the toaster into the wall socket, the toaster works perfectly. If you take the toaster and stick it into the transformer outside or into the power plant, the local power plant, it melts, right? So it's a process of regulating. So when people are experiencing dizziness or nausea during meditation, in general, it means too much. A one way some of the saints used to call it divine drunkenness. They have too much spiritual energy and their bodies can't assimilate it. It's too potent. It's like being exposed to the sun for too long, because the solar energy is very, very potent. So that's one factor, is the person didn't do exercises. They maybe did a very powerful meditation. And so the powerful energies are moving through their system and it's stirring things up that they could have gotten rid of during their exercises, or they could have gotten rid of during the breathing exercises. You have to keep in mind, pranic healing is a very special school because we focus on energy, and there are other schools that don't know about these things. So they have maybe a couple exercises that you do, and then maybe no breathing, and then they go right into a meditation, and then maybe they don't invoke for a certain teacher. So all the energies are being minimized, right? But in our school, because we specialize in energy is the accelerating factor. So the more energy you introduce into a system, you will show the weaknesses of that system. So if somebody goes, yeah, I do Vipassana, every quarter, I go to my 10-day meditation retreat, it's fine. Nothing comes up for me, because there's not an energy factor stimulating them. But if you bless them, or you introduce lots and lots of energy to their system, things could be much more difficult. So I have a feeling that this particular person experiences dizziness and nausea is because her system is congested. Nausea is typically connected to the navel chakra and to the forehead. So if you are a dancer or a gymnast and you spin and you rotate, one of the ways to prevent yourself from becoming dizzy is focusing on your navel, which is the center of power, physical power. So I would expect that this person doesn't do exercises. Also your diet, right? If you have a really heavy diet, meat diet, and you start doing powerful meditation practices, that's also going to make you feel nauseous. So the navel's affected, the liver's affected, the solar plexus is affected. Yeah. So those are some of the factors. And then last question, what makes a good energy healer? What makes a good energy healer? I don't know. Wait a minute. You just lost all credibility. So Master Choa says in the book on healing, in this Golden Lotus Sutra books, he says, if you want to be a powerful healer, you have to be humble, which goes back to the lineage. It's the most important factor. It's negative pride is the last vice to go. So even a saint, even a high-level saint, can fall due to pride. A holy master has transcended negative pride, as I understand it. So they are out of that cycle. So what they do is in alignment with the greatest good because they know what the greatest good is, and they just do it. So if you look at healers and you research healers and you study healers, it becomes very clear who are the humble healers and who are the not humble healers. Now, I remember, I'll give you a funny story. I'm kind of throwing myself under the bus on this one, but hey, it's all for good, right? So I was always looking for a moniker, right? You know what a moniker is, like a slogan. And so I was like, okay, well, let's see, Christian Long, that's my name. Okay. And then I was like, okay, where do I live? All right, I live in Denver. Okay. Denver's energy healer. Pranic healer? No. Let's see. People don't know about pranic healing, but more people know about energy healing. Yeah. So, all right. So Denver. Okay. So they know where Denver is. Energy healer. Okay. What else can I do? There's got to be another hook, another selling point, something. What is it? Aha. Denver's number one energy healer. That's what I'll choose. So for many, not many years, but probably 4 years, I'd say, hey, this is Christian Long, Denver's number one energy healer. How are you? Et cetera, et cetera. And then it got around, obviously. Who's this guy think he is? It got around to other practitioners, and it got around to other senior practitioners, and then it got around to the masters. So one time I saw one of the masters at a retreat in New Jersey, and he said to me, so Denver's number one energy healer, huh? I said, yeah, it's for marketing purposes. It's for marketing purposes. And he goes, what's more important, marketing or the virtues? The virtues. Yeah, the virtues. He goes, okay. So then I spent the next day coming up with all these different monikers that represented more humility, et cetera, et cetera. And I would see him in the hallway. What about this one? And he would go, no. And then I would keep going back to him, and it became like a joke over the weekend. And I finally decided on life enhancement consultant about almost 5 years ago, because I was talking with somebody and told them my clientele and how I work with people and my prices and, the dynamic of my business. And he goes, yeah, life enhancement consultant. It's great. And I go, actually, I really like that because that's what I focus on. I help people with their lives and enhancing them. So and so one of the masters, when I changed that, I said, this is Christian Long, life enhancement consultant. And she says, what happened to Denver's #1 energy healer? And I said, well, I was talking with one of the masters and he said it wasn't very, wasn't practicing humility. And you know what she said? Without skipping a beat, she goes, you were practicing humility because it's true. And I was like, that's actually a really good point. So Master Choa has a famous, I know you guys haven't seen this video, but at our Hot Tag Yoga retreats, Master Choa, we see videos of the teacher. And there was a video of him wanting to quote one of his books. And he says, can somebody hand me Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul? At the time, it was called Meditations on Soul Realization was the name of the book. So he changed the name. And so somebody goes in the back of the room where all the books are sold and brings it to him. And he's flipping through the book to find the right page to read to the group. And he goes, good book, huh? And then you hear people laughing, right? They're like, well, it's a good book. You're the one who wrote it. Why wouldn't it be a good book? And he stopped because he sensed the energy of the group. He stopped and he says, no, you have to understand that is a sign of humility. Humility is knowing something is good, but also knowing something is not good, right? So if you produce a good product or good service or good invention or whatever, it's okay to be like, this is a good product and to be proud of that. That's humble, right? Negative pride is this swinging on the fence. So negative pride is I'm better than everyone else, which is not true, or I'm below everyone else, which is not true. That's negative pride. So negative pride shows up on both ends of the spectrum. Humility is being right in the center. I'm good at this. I'm not good at this, right? So if you want to be a great healer, you have to be humble. You have to go, all right, I need to go to the protocol. I need to refer to the protocol on this particular condition. Or is this the right, let me ask another healer who's more experienced than me. Am I doing this technique properly? Leaning on the lineage and being empowered from above versus empowered by yourself. Those are different things that help you become a better healer and to produce greater results for the people that you serve. So humility is, in my opinion, the #1 quality for being a great healer. Because the funny thing is, what happens is as people do their practices regularly, their meditation practice, their arhatic practice, their breathing practices, exercise practices, all the different practices we do within our school, they become what? Super empowered. And then they start thinking they're the source of the energy. They're the source of the healing. And then guess what? The aura starts to get small. The chakras become small and they become less empowered. And guess what? They can't produce the same miraculous healings. So humility is the #1 factor. And the way you stay humble is recognizing that the energy passes through you. It does not come from you. And that's the lineage. Okay. So I will put that list together, Beth, and send it out. If not today, tomorrow, of the names in the lineage, that's a whole class and lecture in and of itself. But I hope you guys got value from today. We do our best to answer the questions in the clearest, simplest way without getting Christian in trouble. Fair enough? Perfect. Okay, let us close. Beware the heart, beware the crown, beware the heart and the crown together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, to Grandmaster Choa Kuk-Sui, to Lord MAHAGURUJI MEIN LING, to Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, to Saraswati, to Lord Ganesh, to Holy Master Count St Germain, To all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, to the angels of inner and outer healing, the angels of communication, of awareness, understanding, and deeper insight. To our divine selves, our higher souls, we humbly give thanks for your divine light, love, and power, for your help, guidance, and protection. Thank you for giving us this wisdom and information to become better people and better souls, and to alleviate the suffering of others. We thank you, Lord God. We thank you all. With gratitude, respect, and love, we thank you in full faith. So be it. So be it. So it is. Thank you. All right, y'all. Lots of love to each and every one of you. We can see our brain off to the side over here. And I will see you this Sunday for Transformation Sunday. We're developing the topic right now. And then I'll have this posted, within the next hour and a half or so. These videos tend to take a while to upload to YouTube and then putting it into the group. But I will have it for you shortly. Love you guys very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me those beautiful smiles, because without you, I'd be talking to myself, which I do a lot here where I am. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.